Hello everyone, it's Carrie, the artist who creates Skeriosities art dolls. So just a heads up, if you haven't noticed from the thumbnail, the doll I'm making in this video is quite different from the dolls that I usually make. It's horror themed because it was a doll I created for a collection where I was making a bunch of horror themed dolls for a horror convention. So if gruesome, gory stuff isn't your thing, you may just want to pass on watching this one. So I'm making a custom Silent Hill nurse. This character has always completely creeped me out, so I thought, what better way to step out of my comfort zone than to go straight to this gory, creepy, crazy creature. Silent Hill is a movie and a video game, and this is just one of the many things in those movies and video games that will haunt your nightmares forever. So to make this one, I'm using a Monster High Cleo Denial body. The head is from a Monster High Create a Monster kit. So of course I could have used the Cleo head, but I had one of these heads from a Create a Monster kit that I really had no use for, and I thought, well, let's save the Cleo head for something else. So I started out by rolling out some polymer clay in very thin sheets. I used a polymer clay press, or it's also called a conditioning machine. Basically, it's a pasta maker. I rolled them out in super thin sheets because, for one, the head of the Monster High doll was already quite large, so I didn't want to make it look much bigger. And I was also a little concerned about the weight, so I didn't want the head to be too heavy so that it wouldn't be posable. After rolling out the thin sheets, I rolled out some gauze on top of them to give them sort of a bandage-like texture, and then I cut them into strips so they'd look like bandages. To make sure that they would adhere to the vinyl, I added some liquid Sculpey before adding the bandages. As I was adding the bandages, I used a sculpting tool to kind of try to maintain the shape of the face. As I was adding more strips, some of the overlapping kind of got a little thick, so I used my sculpting tool to sort of sculpt and cut away some of the bulkiness. And I just used my brush and some of this liquid Sculpey to keep it flexible and just kind of smooth it out on the vinyl. So again, I'm just adding them as if they were bandages, but trying to be cautious not to overlap too much. And I'm also leaving room for, I wanted to paint one eye. So the left eye, well, left from this perspective anyway, but the doll's right eye, I'm leaving open so I can actually give sort of a face-up eye look. Once I did a little bit more shaping and trying to thin out the sides a bit, I removed the head to bake it. And also, since some of the clay had layered up a little bit too much around the neck, after I removed the head, I cut away a bit to make sure that it would still be able to be posed. And then I just put the head in the oven according to the instructions on the clay label. I think this was just like standard Sculpey, and the directions said, I think it was 275 per quarter inch maybe. Definitely if you're going to do something like this, make sure you read the label, because I'm not sure if that's correct. But I think it was for about 10-15 minutes. I was also worried that the head would warp or lose its shape because I was baking it, but luckily it didn't. Just a note though, if I were to do this again, I would definitely use either paper clay or epoxy sculpt, which are self-curing, so you don't have to bake it and worry about losing the shape of the vinyl. But luckily that didn't happen here, and it all solidified and cured very well. So Cleo's body is pretty tan, so I wanted to give her a look of sort of an undead, pale look. So I airbrushed some white in the main areas of her body, really just focusing on the areas where if somebody were undead, they would not have a lot of blood flow. And then I wanted to make her look like she was kind of decaying, so I added some bursts of black. And my airbrush was a little clogged and not working properly, but I didn't really care because it kind of added some splatter, which I liked. So after I baked her, I realized that it didn't quite give it the effect I was looking for by adding the gauze and making that texture. So I cut up some of the gauze into strips and took some liquid Fimo. Liquid Fimo is similar to liquid Sculpey, but just a little more fluid. So I used that and sort of pasted on the strips of gauze in like a diagonal pattern across the chin and nose and forehead, and just worked with that a little bit to give it more of just a gruesome, like decaying kind of gauzy bandage look. So once I was pleased with how that looked, I shot it with my heat gun. The heat gun is a tool that's used for miscellaneous craft projects, and it's kind of like a hairdryer, but absolutely do not ever use it as a hairdryer because it's super, super hot, and just putting your hand in front of it, it'll burn your hand. But anyway, so after I added the gauze with the Fimo, I shot it with the heat gun, and that did a couple of things. It made the clay harden and essentially turned the gauze into cured clay. So it was definitely, hardened, and the whole head is like one solid piece of clay now. And it also sort of burned the gauze and made it shrink up a little bit and gave it just the perfect effect that I was looking for. Now that it was all baked, I started to paint, and I started out by giving her sort of a face-up like I would normally do by painting the eye, and added some dimension with dark reds and blacks in all of the crevices. As I'm watching this video, I'm realizing I had more difficulty, or I'm remembering rather, that I had more difficulty with the gauze than I expected, and kind of took off a lot that I began with and kind of minimized what I added, and then shot it with the heat gun again. Just trial and error, I guess. So now that I was satisfied with the look, I hit it, like I said, with the heat gun quite a bit. Spent a lot of time making sure that it was nice and heated so that it was ultimately baked, and then kind of trimmed off and sanded off some of the excess pieces of gauze that were sticking out. And then now we start with the paint. So I'm using my watercolor pencils from Derwent, as I would normally do on my face-ups. I'm also using some Rembrandt soft pastels, and just doing sort of a slanty, creepy eye. It was a little easier than a normal face-up because the face area around it was going to be nice and black. So using the soft pastels in black, I'm just really just adding as much as I can to make it as black as possible around the outside of the eye, and still trying to maintain the shape of the whole eye. I'm not sure if I show it in this video, but later on I do add some Liquitex Gloss sealant to the eye, the entire eye, and then I also add some eyelashes. So at this point I'm adding some dimension with some dark reds and blacks in all of the crevices of the gauze. Trying to make it look like just blood and decay. Once I added those very dark areas, I also wanted to bring back some of the highlights. So I added some white and some light skin tone color as a base, so I could start adding the lighter colors and all the little details. I just sort of played it by ear, adding some skin tones and some bloody areas and splatter. And I used some reference photos from the movie and videos and some cosplayers, and just kind of did a mix of all of the different ideas. I'm using my palette of soft pastels. I'll take my soft pastels and then I rub them out on some sandpaper just so I can pick it up with my paintbrush. That'll give it, when I use soft pastels, it gives it more of an airbrushed effect in the in a smaller area. So at this point I wanted to add some veins. I wanted to add some veins to the chest area and the leg area and on some of the arms. So I mixed up some craft paints in blue and red with some distilled water, and you can see in the video that I'm trying it out on a test doll before the actual application. So I'm pulling out this Frankie Stein Monster High doll, and I just use it for general testing of any kind of supplies that I have before I would use them on the actual doll that I'm creating. So as you can see, some of the lines turned out too dark, some of them too light, and it just took a while to get the right consistency to make them look like I wanted them to look. So after I did the veins, I kind of just, while doing the veins, I just kind of added some lines and just zigzag patterns across the chest and the arms and the legs. And then after I did that, I finished up with some body blushing, actually more of a darkening of the joints with some soft pastels in black and blue, and also added some yellows and just general colors that you would use for just decaying skin. And then I added some more black and blood splatter. Once I put her outfit on, I actually used some real like theater fake blood that they use like in theater productions, because it was a great consistency to add blood splatter to the overall look afterwards. So those final details I didn't capture on film, so I apologize, but if you want to see more detail of the doll's full look, check out the videos that I'm posting on my spring collection 2017, and in those videos I'm walking through each of the dolls that were made for this collection. It was for the Mad Monster Party in South Carolina in 2017 in March, and I made a collection of like horror dolls and sort of classic monsters, and so in those videos I walk through the outfits and how I made them, and so there'll be more on this doll in the one that's coming in the next week or so. Also, the dolls that I have currently available, as of the time that I'm posting this video, this doll is available, but she's sort of a convention exclusive. I'll be showing her at the Heroes Convention in June of 2017. If she doesn't sell there, there's a possibility she'll be available on our Etsy page. But the ones that I currently have available for purchase are on the Etsy shop, and the link is in the description box below. So that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to be notified of future videos, please subscribe. And you can also check out my work on @Skeriosities on Instagram and Twitter, and also on Facebook as Skeriosities. It's the same way that it's spelled below. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope everybody has a great day. Bye!